Welcome back to another cool MDIIO pop-up event. I see some familiar faces. I see some new people. So welcome. You are now part of our little community of musical weirdos, and we're grateful to have you here. So thankfully, let's jump into this. I wanted to give you a quick introduction. Let me go backwards here for a minute. It occurred to me that the idea of going through a licensing agreement line by line doesn't sound as exciting as it should be. But we are going to also make this entertaining as well. But anyway, I wanted to introduce you to somebody who, if you were a part of our webinar series, would have met about a year ago now, maybe a little bit more actually. But this is a woman who I've worked with professionally for, I don't know, probably at least 5 years, maybe even more now. And she's one of my favorite music publishers, and with an expertise in music for film and television. And I'm grateful, thank you to Carla for coming and joining us this afternoon. Carla, please meet Carla Downs. She is a absolute superstar, and I'm going to let her brag for herself. But what is your official role now at Downtown, Carla?
VP of TV Film Creative.
VP of TV Film and Creative, so she knows what she's talking about. Carla, maybe give us a little bit of a background on who you are.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Justin. I've been doing this for a little over a decade now. I've done on both sides, on both master and publishing. I started off at Warner Music Group at Rhino Records, focusing on their awesome back catalog. And then went over to Warner Chappell when they merged, and that's where I kind of learned my publishing chops. I spent some time at BMG, which is where Justin and I met, and I've now been at Downtown for coming up on 3 years.
And doing a pretty awesome job. So welcome. Actually, I too am at Downtown, and that's the reason when I was getting done with my BMG deal, I called up Carla and I said, I have an idea. What do you think? And she signed off, and here we are. So and it's been a ton of fun. And in fact, if you guys happen to be in LA next week, we're going out for team tacos. I'm sure that Carla's not going to be joining us, but we'll be eating tacos in your honor.
You will be in good hands, and you better drink a margarita for me too.
Well, I probably won't drink a margarita, but I might drink two.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's jump into it. I want to talk about a little bit philosophically. Some of you might know this, some of you might not know this. So we're going to go over the sort of from a high level, just the concept of music publishing and licensing and how that works. So that you guys really all have a sense. And if you understand this, forgive us for repeating the obvious. And if you aren't already aware, hopefully this will be a great opportunity to learn something. So specifically when we're talking about, and I'm going to ask you some questions, Carla, and then maybe you can answer those. And then what we are going to do is we are going to get into an actual contract of a license that I've done. I did late 2019. That we just literally go through it, and we're going to talk about everything that we discussed here during this sort of preliminary part of the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. Some people thoughtfully sent questions ahead of time, which is awesome. So we were also going to hit those. But as we're going down, feel free to just jot your questions. Don't say that 3 times fast into the chat, and we'll try and hit them as we go. So let's just talk philosophically around licensing music for film and TV. Okay, so Carla, here's the first basic question. When you are licensing your song to a film or a television or a TV commercial or a movie trailer or whatever, right? Are you selling the rights to that song that you own?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because no, you are not. However, I have run into instances. This obviously doesn't happen to me in my day-to-day job because people know better, but I have friends who are musicians and producers or whatever. And I have run into situations here and there where some sneaky marketing executives, usually at smaller companies, because the big ones, usually play by the rules and do everything the way they're supposed to, have tried to incorporate the actual rights to the song as part of the deal. And that is not customary. You are giving them permission to use your song or whatever you control of the song for a specified period of time, but you are not selling the rights to your song. And if you ever see anything in a contract that makes you feel like that's what they're trying to do, that's not okay. Ask a friend.
So phone a friend.
Yeah.
So tell us about how to, because, and again, we're going to go through this contract together, and we're, maybe we'll spend 10 or 15 minutes on it. We're not going to, it's not going to be like this overbearing thing, but tell us a little bit about a license and differentiate for us, if you can, Carla, the difference between the sync side and the master side. Can you just differentiate that for us? And also, let's take this example just to give a bit of context to this, right? So let's say it's a $10,000 license. I know I told you there'd be no math, but let's just pretend, right? Let's say there's a $10,000 license, right? And there is 3 songwriters and 1 master owner. So let's talk a little bit about just creating some context around this question, right? So talk about publishing versus master, and then talk about how that money gets split, publishing versus master, considering there's 3 writers, 1 master owner. You're up.
Yeah. So you have the publishing side and which sometimes you'll hear referred to as the sync side, and the master side. The master side is referring to the actual recording. And that's also, in most cases, the artist tends to control the majority, if not all, of the actual sound recording. And if you're talking labels, publishers, that's where you would go to the label for the clearance. Publishing side.
Would you say the differentiator in master ownership is effectively who paid to make the recording of the song? Is that how you would define the master owner?
Yeah. Okay.
So in other words, if you are a producer, even if you're not getting paid and you're working with an artist who's not paying you, you should theoretically own at least half of the master, because you're either not getting paid, therefore you are investing in the creation of the recording, right? Or if you are an artist and you've paid a producer, you should, because you paid for the recording, you would own that master share of the revenue. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. And we have that a lot, especially in our sync writers, where, we'll have a producer and a writer and artist come on and they work together. And usually, again, it's because they're working together as collaborators and the producer hasn't been hired on to produce. They will usually split that master 50-50 or however they decide is fair to work it out. That's for them to decide. But yes, absolutely.
Right. So real life situation, no money is exchanging hands for a recording, but there's a producer that is producing a song on behalf of an artist. Typically, at least in my experience, what I do is I split the master with the artist 50-50. So basically the artist is bringing their artist and their artistry to it, especially, and oftentimes they're co-writing. That's 50%. Me producing the song and creating the recorded version of it is also worth 50% of the master. So let's jump over to the sync side, or the publisher share, the publishing side of that same $10,000 license. By the way, that $10,000 license is split usually half for the master recordings and then half towards the publisher. The publisher share, right? Okay,
and you'll see that referred to as MFN. A lot of times you'll say, where this request will be MFN with master, MFN with publishing, which basically just means that publishing is going to get paid the same as master. It's a guarantee that both sides get paid the same. But when you're going,
and MFN stands for what?
Most favored nations.
Right. Okay. In other words, the person who gets the best deal is everybody gets whoever gets the best deal. Everybody gets that.
Exactly. Yes. So if you had some amazing public, the the licensee comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to pay you, like you said, $10,000, $5,000 aside for a song," and then maybe on the publishing side, which you have no control over, they say, "You know what? I want 15," and the licensee agrees to it. You both get bumped up to 15. So you don't get shortchanged just because someone negotiated a little better than you.
So let me ask you 2 quick questions for you, right? So this is sometimes confusing to people, right? The licensee is who?
The licensee is the company that wants to use the music. The licensor is you. So in the case of the contract we're going to go over, the licensor is Justin, and the licensee is going to be, sorry, apologies. I'm looking at I have it up on my other screen here. It's good. That's why
Microsoft.
This was,
Microsoft. I think this was Microsoft, right? Okay,
yes,
so
Microsoft, yes.
Right. So okay, good. I think that's something that's it's one of those strange nuances, because sometimes even I still fall into the habit of referring to the person who's licensing, basically the demander of the song as the licensor. Mm-hmm. And it can sometimes tend to be confusing, but yes, the licensee is the person paying to use the license. The licensor is the person who's getting paid to license their song.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk about, sorry, I just want to jump on. So let's talk about the publishing side. Mm-hmm. So now we have the same $5,000 and we have 3 writers. Let's talk about how that gets split.
So you have 3 writers. That's all going to depend on how the writers have decided to split the publishing. So was it split, 3 writers? Was it one writer got 50%, the other 2 got 25? Was it split in even 3 ways? That's for the writers of the song to decide. And then, so if it was, say it was someone got 50%, the other 2 got 25, then that $5,000 would be split. The person with 50% would get $2,500, and then the other 2 that only had 25% each would get $1,200, right? Yeah.
$1,250. Yeah, thank you for simplifying the math. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But also I think something I think something that probably should be said at this point is talking about splits before there is any activity around a song, I think is really crucial, right?
Please always do that, because if you take too long to figure that out, you could lose the deal. They want a music supervisor, wants a song pitched to them, and wants a song that they are ready to take to a license to be clean, signed, sealed, and delivered, easy. And that's one of the, yes, you have to have a good song, but being easy to deal with from a clearance perspective is one of the best ways to get them to come back for more.
That's a great. So you're moving into a really great spot. Can we talk about that for a second? Mm-hmm. So let's create an apples versus apples scenario here for a minute, right? So let's say you are an independent songwriter, because a lot of the people that we work with here, and a lot of our MDIIO members are independent songwriters, right? We don't have maybe they're published, maybe they're not. Mm-hmm. But let's say you're an independent songwriter, or you're an independent publisher, and you represent songwriters, compared to the other apple, which is a song that is represented by maybe 3 songwriters, which could be 3 publishers, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be 3 writers that are all represented by 3 publishers, and the master owner is maybe the artist and the producer. So there's potentially 5 different points of clearance versus 1 point of clearance, assuming that both songs were exactly the same. Like imagine a universe where we were talking about the same song. Mm-hmm. Would a music supervisor lean more towards something that would be like, hey, this is a much less of a headache in terms of clearance because there's fewer people to have to clear it with versus more people? Would they go, oh, well, that's a publisher, so that's easier to work with? Like, talk to me a little bit about in that sort of scenario. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's an advantage. I guess I'm putting words in your mouth here. There's an advantage to being an independent songwriter who represents 100% of those rights, right?
Absolutely. Especially, I mean, I can't tell you how many requests I get that, in the ad world, sometimes they have, a day to get something cleared. I can't tell you how many times, even in the TV world, all of a sudden somebody's on a sound stage, they need something, a song fell out at the last minute and they're like, oh my God, I need options for this, but I need to be able to clear it by tomorrow. They don't want to look at songs that have 10 different people or 5 different people they have to go to. If I can send them songs that say and be able to say hey, here, this is, 1 person for the master, 1 person for the publishing, or 1 person for everything, or, and be able to just assure them that it's going to be quick and easy. Absolutely.
So I think what happens is when you start to sort of filter out, you start to say, well, okay, this, we want to have something that maybe has 1 or 2 clearing parties, and is willing to be licensed for a certain amount of money, and sort of has to sound a certain way. You start to filter that all down, and I guess it becomes in a strange way, less competitive to get the license. Does that make sense?
It can.
Right? You know what I mean?
Because I think things that are that easy are hard to come by sometimes. So yeah, you're going to start to filter out a lot of other people by doing that.
Right. Good and easy. My nickname in high school. That's actually very helpful. So, okay, so we did talk about a little bit on the sync side and how that gets split up. Let's also talk about like the competitive. I don't want this to come off sounding disparaging. In fact, if you guys are reading these blogs that I'm writing, and they've been a lot of fun to write. This week's blog is actually going to talk about the competition component. So let's talk about the competition component. And I don't think it matters if you're coming from a publisher or if you're an independent. And I do want to talk about a little bit about what we're doing with MDIIO as we're moving into the future, which is really going to be exciting. But let's talk about the competition, right, Carla? So let's just put on this music supervisor hat, and if you can just kind of answer this as I'm going with a little bit of not too much elaboration, right? So let's say you're working on a spot. I'm going to make up this number. You're working for you're doing a Samsung ad, and you already know that you have how much to spend on a Samsung ad. You tell me. I know that ad is not really your lane, but you can kind of give us a good guesstimate, right?
Sure. Yeah. Say you have $100,000 to spend.
Okay, so let's say you're running a Samsung ad. You have $100,000 to spend. By the way, you don't have to be The Weeknd or Bruno Mars. There's a ton of independent artists that are getting paid $100,000 for a Samsung ad for the right song. Okay, so let's say, okay, you now have you've now gone out to your community. You say we're looking for edgy, vibey, up tempo songs about technology. I'm just making that up, right? Whatever. How many songs will you receive inward based on that search query to your community?
Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands.
Okay, so let's just say 500. Let's not completely run everybody to quit music tonight, right? Okay, so let's say a music supervisor might receive 500 songs in return, right? Of those 500 songs, how many of those songs would you say are then? How many of those 500 songs, the music supervisor will respond and say, we want to get quotes on how many of those 500?
Oh my gosh. A handful, I would say.
20 maybe? Oh, less.
I would say maybe 10. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about a quote. What is a quote?
So a quote is when the music supervisor comes back and says, hey, we're interested in using the song, and they're going to break down for an ad, they're going to break down the territories they want, the media they want, which means, do they want internet? Do they want TV broadcast? They're going to break down the term that they want it for. Do they want it for 3 months, 6 months, a year? And they are going to, in some cases, they're going to say, this is the amount of money I have to spend. Is that okay? In other cases, they might come to a publisher and say, you tell me how much this is going to cost. It right. Varies.
So the quoting process can be a little tricky because you don't want to overcharge and be not considered, or undercharge and also maybe be not considered.
Yes. So and a quote does not mean that it's going to go in. Now, like you said,
is there? I mean, I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it aloud. Is there a rate card? Is there something that says, "Hey, this is the usage. This is what you pay"? Is there a standard rate card, or is there sort of like an industry standard understanding?
I mean, there's not, because especially in an ad, there's so many variables that come into play. There's really not. I mean, you could go like low budget, medium, high budget, crazy high budget, but there's so much nuance to so many of these licenses. It's hard to say that there's a black and white rate card for when you get a quote in.
Right. Really quick, Ben B, did your daughter pay admission to this webinar today? Because I'm kidding.
I'll have to catch you later on that one.
No problem. Hello, well, welcome. So okay, so let's go back. So let's say a music supervisor now likes 5 of the 500 songs that have been submitted. 1%, right? And then they go back and they request those quotes. Then what happens when the publisher comes back and says, okay, here's the quote. What happens to those 5 songs next? Creatively speaking.
Honestly, creatively speaking, it depends on, they could be testing the ad with a few different songs to see what's going to test better in certain demographic. I've had that happen before where it's been down to like 2 songs and, one tests better in the Midwestern demographic. So that's the one they decide to go with. So a lot of different things happen in, it could be in a film. It could be, does the scene get cut? There's so many things does the scene stay? Does the scene get cut?
So they might, so I guess what I'm getting is, so they may cut versions of those 5 songs into the commercial. They might share it with the ad agency.
Yes.
The ad agency will then listen to it and go, we like 1, 3, and 4, but we don't really like 2 and 5. So then they might just test 1, 3, and 4.
Correct.
And get reactions from that.
Exactly.
And typically, what is the period of time between when they've asked for a quote, when they've cut a version of the spot with the ad, and then they ultimately pick the song?
Oh my gosh, that could, honestly, I've seen it dragged. We usually put language in our licenses to say that this is good for, because of COVID, we've been doing it for a little bit longer, but, a lot of times publishers and labels will put language in their quotes to say this is good for 90 days or 6 months or whatever they want to do, just to kind of keep the ball rolling. So you would have to come back and ask for extensions if it was going to be longer than that. I've seen things get dragged out for a year, especially with commercials. If all of a sudden somebody decides, because of what's going on in the world, I'm not sure if this is the right time for this commercial. I've seen things happen as quickly as a week or 2.
Well, this one that we're going to show you actually was literally 4 days.
Wow.
Which is crazy. It was nuts. So the thing I wanted to then talk about is, I guess I wanted to kind of indicate that it is very competitive, and here's another question that, because we actually get a lot of our members ask this question, and I know that I don't think I'm that needy of a client of yours, but right, but a lot of times, we want feedback, right? Like, as somebody that's submitting songs, we want to get that feedback. We want to say, did they like my song? Did they not like my song? Is there something that we could do that's better? Is it right? Like, what is the reality of pitching a song and anticipating feedback on any level? It doesn't matter if you're a publisher or if you're an independent artist.
The reality is 95% of the time, 99% of the time, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it even if they love it and end up using it half the time. Music Supervisor, a lot of them, even these days, have like things as part of their signature that says like, don't ask me for feedback, I don't have time. It's really, really rare. I think, I try to not ask music supervisors for feedback too much, because 90% of the time it just annoys them. And I like to save that outreach for when I really, really need it. You're more likely to get feedback if, say, they're interested in the song and they want you to maybe tweak something, but 95% of the time, even if they love something, it's going to be really hard to get feedback.
Well, let's actually talk about because it's your fault because you said the word tweak. So I'm going to just jump on that for a second. So the question that I have for you is, because again, these are a lot of questions that we get a lot. And so I wanted to kind of, and although this wasn't one of the questions that we got, is when you're pitching a song to a music supervisor, how complete does that song need to be?
It should be complete and something that would be ready to be packaged up, signed, sealed, and delivered if they said, okay, we're going to use this tomorrow. They don't love getting demos unless they specifically ask for it. It should be pretty much done.
Right. Great question. Great answer. I did not invent that question. We've gotten that question a lot. I appreciate you answering it. Brad has asked a really quick question. I think before we pivot away from this area, let's jump on his question, because I think this is actually totally in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Which is, how about film and TV rates, standard rates? I'm thinking, the question I'm having is like, how do you determine what an accurate rate is for a particular usage for, let's say, for a film and TV usage?
Yeah, so film tends to have bigger budgets than TV, although we've seen that start to wane in the last few years. But traditionally, films have bigger budgets than television. We look at the song itself. Is it something that no one's ever heard of before? There's going to be obviously a large difference between someone who wants to license, no offense, a Justin song or a Beyonce song. Although I don't think so. So yeah, we're going to look at the song itself and what the going rate for that song is. We're also going to look at the rights that they want. In most cases for TV and film, they're going to want perpetuity, which means they don't want a cutoff date for the song. They want it to be ongoing. They probably want worldwide rights. If you want to pare down the budget, they might limit to US only or whatever to try and get a lower rate on the song. And you're going to look at the length of the use of the song too. Is it a massive montage? Are we using the whole song? Are we only using 10 seconds? All those things will sort of help dictate what the fee for the song should be.
But like, for example, the same song, again, apples versus apples, right? The same song in the biggest CBS 10 p.m. drama versus for 30 seconds versus the same song in, let's say, a streaming platform for the same type of usage. It's the value is not necessarily going to be the same, right?
It's not necessarily going to be the same. I would say, the type of platform that it's going to be used on, and again, you could go to big blockbuster film versus small documentary, could be the difference of, Justin, say like one of your songs in a massive blockbuster could be getting $40,000-$50,000, whereas, in a teeny tiny documentary could be getting $5,000. It depends on the
or 500, right? Or 500.
Yeah.
The project. Right, and I think actually just on a sort of like on a philosophical level, I think any time that a song is being licensed is a good thing, and you're not giving up those rights. You still own those songs, so you can turn around and license the same song. I mean, we've done it together, Carla. We've done it.
Oh my God.
How many times have we licensed Feel So Good, right? Like you could turn around and license a song 25 times, and oftentimes, as long as they're not competing usages. You could, there's been times where we literally had that same song licensed 3 or 4 times, all running at the same time on different mediums, right?
Yes. And if somebody wants exclusivity to your song for whatever reason, they could pay more for it because that's limiting your opportunity to use it elsewhere.
Right. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and Adam is on our call here. You guys have probably communicated with him from time to time. We are really in the process of setting up our hyper audio platform, which allows us to. There he is, right there. Look at him. He looks like a younger me. Where'd you go, man? He's anyway. There he is, and he's gone. So we're setting up our hyper audio platform, which basically the whole point is to connect you to licensees. We want to make sure that we, in a sort of in a passive way. So the whole point is you put your songs up. Let's go see if we can help generate some revenue for you guys. That's really the goal that we're at here. And we're excited to get that. So again, songs don't get licensed if they don't go up on the platform. So we'll be reaching out to you guys more specifically as we really move forward into launching that as well. So we are going to go look at these contracts in a moment. And I think we're videotaping all this. So videotaping, oh my God. 1987 just called. We are recording this stream. I just said it like my mom for a second, you guys.
Really? Yeah.
I was like, "Are you videotaping this?" Anyway, yes, we are recording. Thank you. And so these will all be available to go back and be re-enjoyed. I'm sure you're all going to do that. Let's go and hit a couple of these questions as we dig in. before we get into the contract stuff. And again, please, guys, jump in, ask questions in the chat. Here's the first question from Kiara Gray, no relation. When starting out, is any offer too low? Should you just accept whatever comes your way, or should you have a certain standard for your sync fees? I'm going to actually copy and paste this and put it in the chat so everybody can read the question. Carla?
I would say that I wouldn't do free, because people will ask you for your music for free, and that's where I would draw the line. You know, I would just keep in mind, you know, if you're into the project and you want to do it, I think you should just do it. I think licenses beget more licenses. I think when you're first starting out, unless there's something super egregious or they're asking for something that feels inappropriate, like I said, you know, maybe there's some language in there that makes you uncomfortable, like maybe they're trying to actually absorb the rights to your song into a license, and then I would say no. But I think when you're first starting off, you know, there are exceptions to every rule, but I think sync begets sync, and you should take what comes your way at first, because it's also, you make inroads with those music supervisors, you know, you can become their go-to person if you're, you know, you're sending them great music and you're easy to work with. I think most of the time it's a good idea to accept what comes your way at first.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think that, you know, in fact, the one that we're going to talk about, this Microsoft license, came because of the song that was in the Toy Story 4 movie trailer that the Soup had Shazammed and discovered, and had been able to do the research to find it. And, you know, I mean, you know, it's my Black and Gray project. Let's go. And so, so anyway, it's, and again, I think that's another sort of additional point is release your music. You literally really never know when someone's going to be coming across. So I think it's important to release stuff, package it, make it look nice, make it feel professional, make it feel authentic and real. Don't make it feel like it's just a sync project. You know, and all of those things will work to your advantage, especially if, you know, music supervisors are very interested in, you know, digging through the SoundCloud crate to find something cool that they can license. Because I can tell you, and I mean this sincerely, music supervisors love giving unknown bands or artists or singers opportunity and money. That is like finding some cool rock band in Croatia is like, that is like a dream, right? Or whatever you might be doing. So anyway, thank you. That's a great answer. There's a couple more questions that have come in, and I have one that I'm about to fire into the chat as well. Glenn McLeod, if there are 4 writers, does the licensee need personal clearance from all 4, or can I, as the master co-owner, be the one stop?
That would be an agreement that you come to with those writers. If you come to an agreement where you can be the approval party for all 4, that's between you, and that's great.
I can actually speak to that, because as Carla knows, I do this a lot.
Yeah.
If I'm working with songwriters, it is in my interest to make these songs as clearable as quickly as possible. They're typically professional. They understand that as well. So, you know, for me, if I say, hey guys, look, if they're published, no, certainly on the master side, I'll say, look, I'm going to represent you on the master. If we get it licensed, I'll pay you directly. It makes just that, it just removes one part of the process. So I will do that typically. If somebody is not published and I'm working with them, then I'll do the same thing. I'll say, hey, look, I'll pay you. Let's just make sure that we clear it. And, you know, obviously I don't screw people over. I make sure that they get paid. So typically those are the relationships. So yes, the answer to your question, Glenn, is if the opportunity presents itself and you're working with somebody, say, hey, look, I want to be the clearance for this. And we'll do an agreement. So if every time I get paid, you get paid within 48 hours or whatever, I find typically people are that cool. Or even if you're working with people that maybe have their own partners, you say, hey, look, whoever gets the license, we all agree that, and I'm actually looking at you, Glenn, for all people, you look like a young Wolfman Jack. Did anybody tell you that? Anyway, you might say with your collaborators, hey, whoever gets the license becomes the clearing source, and we all sort of go along with it, right? If everybody's cool, then that usually probably makes it a little bit easier. But
Just
that's
to jump on that, if somebody is signed to like a traditional publishing deal, you're not going to be able to do that with them. They're going to have to go to their publisher for the clearance. But if you're not, then yes, absolutely, that's a great situation.
But even if you can represent the rights, even if you can represent 75% of the rights,
Yes,
you actually control a lot of the power, and then the music publisher can usually, if there's somebody that you're working with, they kind of usually either tag along, or if they're a really good music publisher, they might take the fee from $1,500 to $2,000.
Yes.
Right. And so you owning it you can actually tag along with their, with their ability to jack the price up. So and we've been in that situation, Carl. If you remember the Beautician one, that was a song that I had I'd written with another writer that was part of another publishing company. I'm not going to mention their names, but they had quoted, I think, 3,000, and my publisher Downtown had quoted 7,500. Guess what? They went with 7,500. Everybody got paid more money. So that sort of that sort of stuff happens a lot. Robert Gibson, I see right in the middle there. You are looking very comfortable. You're looking like the George Costanza and Seinfeld painting that Kramer does. You can't rebroadcast this. I just made a Seinfeld joke. Question: re non-exclusive rights. Is it fair to say you only can have a song be licensed exclusively before you ever do so non-exclusively? For example, can you go to those who have it non-exclusively and get out of that deal? I can answer this really quick. Non-exclusive means non-exclusive. Are you referring to like if someone is representing you for like a place? Someone says, "Hey, Robert, I like your stuff. I want to represent your songs to get you licensed." Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about an actual usage of the song? Usage, gotcha. Okay, so I mean, if it's a usage, once that song has been licensed, you can license it anywhere. The only difference is, for example, if let's say you've licensed a song for, typically tech is really the toughest. Like if you license your song for Samsung, probably Apple or Microsoft or LG or something that is competitive in the tech space would not license your song. So even though it is technically non-exclusive, in a way it would kind of be exclusive, because just somebody else would not. But you could take that song that you've licensed for Samsung, and you could turn around and put it into a film trailer. You can do those sorts of things. So
and just to jump in, actual exclusivity license in a language that would actually that's legally binding is rare. It doesn't usually happen. You see it in mostly in ads and sometimes in trailers. You don't really see it in TV and film very often. And if you do see it, especially in a TV film situation, I would definitely dig into that a little bit further and ask why, and you should charge a little bit more money for it.
Yeah, and I was going to say again, sometimes when it's not uncommon to demand an exclusive period of time, but again, like Carla said, they usually pay for that. Yeah. Right? They'll pay for that, right? Yes. Good question.
And never, ever, ever in perpetuity. They can have it for a period of time, but not forever. Yeah.
And again, we're gonna look at this contract. I know you cannot wait. You're all sitting there with bated breath, waiting to read a contract on a Wednesday afternoon / evening. I'm sure you're enthusiastic and giddy with joy. But let's answer a couple more questions here, and then we'll jump into that. Flavia asks a great question. I hope I got that right. It seems like it was right, Flavia. I'm hoping I'm putting the right emphasis on the correct syllable. Question: if you have signed songs with a sync agent exclusively, can you still release those songs yourself as an artist? That's a great question. Carla, you can answer it. I can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're with a sync agent, the exclusivity has to do with sync. I can't imagine a situation where an agreement like that would prevent you from releasing the songs.
That I agree, and it's funny that, interestingly enough, dovetails into Marco's question. Not that we're jumping off your question, Flavia. Oh my God, I really hope I'm not butchering your name. I'm so sorry if I am. But it kind of dovetails into Marco's question. I'm planning to release an album in January. Are songs less likely to get chosen if they are released, or do they generally prefer to use unreleased music? That is a great question. There are two schools of thought. I have two schools of thought, but I'd be interested to see what Carla has to say about it.
It really depends. Music supervisors love yes, they love finding gems. They love finding the song no one's ever heard of before and being the tastemaker. But they also, I mean, Justin, there's an example from way back when I can't even remember the film. It was an independent film that one of your songs was licensed in, and we actually asked you to put it up on Spotify and make it look like it, because it wasn't released, and make it look like a more proper release, just so when they present it to the director, he'd be able to like Shazam it or Google it and see it and make it feel like a proper release from an artist.
Yeah, what was it?
It was it was like it was a rom-com, I think. I can't remember what it was now.
You guys, that's how successful we are. We don't even remember the licenses anymore. We just are like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, that one. But I think I think it really depends. I get a lot of times if you're planning a release and you can say, I'm sending this to you early. Music supervisors love getting music early that they know is eventually going to be out there. They love if they can time things in certain ways with an episode coming out or a commercial or whatever. It really just, it's situational. So I wouldn't say across the board that having it released versus not would significantly reduce or increase your chances. It's kind of on a case by case basis, but I will say that being able to give someone a little sneak peek of something that's coming out in a few weeks or in a month or whatever, they do really like that.
Again, interestingly enough, the license that we're about to show you ticked that exact box. The music supervisor was like, can we get a bio for the band? We're like, yes. And we went and wrote a bio. And of course, at the end of it, it's like touring planned for Q1 of 2021, which of course, then, we got hit by COVID. So otherwise we would have been touring, I'm sure. So Flavia asked another question, and I've been told now that I am pronouncing it correctly. Thank you so much. Can I just pronounce it incorrectly every time, just for fun? Flavia. She asked a question, can I pitch songs that I have released already on record labels? The answer is yes, you can. The only difference is, as we indicated earlier, the record label likely will collect on behalf of the master recording, but with respect to the publishing share, you would collect on that. I want to hit a couple more of these questions. Here's one that came in, and then there's two more, and then I really do want to show the contract. By the way, you guys have been fantastic putting your questions in. I love this kind of back and forth informal conversation. It's really great. So this question came from Neil James Cross, and this question was, we were offered a sync deal last year from a licensing company that stated in the contract that if they were to suggest any changes to the song in order to help it get placed, they would claim rights to that song. Is that a regular practice?
That's
not with the good people. Not with the good people. It's not.
No. If their notes are, can you make it, I don't know, can you have it build in the end a little bit? Can you add some more percussion? Can you, in my opinion, no, I don't, that is not standard. Where you get into, say a film studio or a TV studio wanting to take a piece of that and not the whole thing, a piece of the song, is when, say, they're presenting you a storyline that, like, say you're writing an original, or you're significantly tweaking a song that you already had based on storyline or a script that they're giving you for a film, and they're providing you significant and substantial storyline that is affecting the writing of the song, then yes, that's where it makes sense. But if they're just giving you notes like, can you add a horn here, or can you add some snaps, claps, and whistles? I would not give them a piece of your song. Justin, you're muted.
Yeah, I know, I got it. And exactly. Robert, you're wrong. For more cowbell, they definitely do take a piece of your song. So you're actually I just wanted to set that out as a rule. Generally, don't add more cowbell. Sometimes what a lot of nefarious song pluggers will do is they will ask you to retitle songs in order to specifically identify that they have a right of ownership to that particular song. It's a little frowned upon. I wouldn't suggest it. I would just kind of look at it and go, hey, this is maybe not the right environment or scenario for me to be in. But again, I would never dissuade anybody from trying to do what they need to do to create success in their careers at the same time. So I do have That is a little bit of my opinion there. There's another question here that has come in from maybe the best name of the day, Don Gooby. I don't think Don's on the call, but I do like that name quite a bit. So we're going to ask his question. Hi, Justin. I'm a TV producer in Newfoundland. As one of my colleagues with Music NL said, there was some sort of complimentary membership. Oh, yeah. Yes, there is. The answer is if you're here, you're getting to use it for free. So we love having you here. And again, we're going to be doing some really cool stuff moving forward. And, we really are very grateful for this very lovely community that we're here building. So very thankful to have you guys here as a part of this conversation. Let's ask, we got one more question here that is coming from Marco Loco. I see Marco, I see that he is very relaxed, obviously participating and enjoying this webinar. So thank you for being here. I think you're in Costa Rica, right? Am I right about that? You're muted, but I think a thumbs up, right? You're still muted, but that's okay. You look like you're fun to hang out with. So we'll give. Oh, Thailand, amazing! Welcome. I think you might be the first member of MDIIO from Thailand. His question is, he so thoughtfully sent a question in advance. So thank you for doing that. What advice would you give to a versatile songwriter who has an abundance of high quality original and unsigned music? What is the most professional way to present your libraries and the best way to get them heard? That is unfortunately, you're not special. That is a very common question that we get. Robert, very quickly on the draw there, says a MDIIO account. Again, we're just, as I hope you guys see, yeah, I'll get to that, Marco. As I hope you guys see, we are pretty passive about how much we want to push MDIIO down your throat. That's not what this is about. We're really trying to help educate and introduce you to awesome people like Carla, give you insight into the way the business works and help you really understand these things a little bit more from an insider's perspective. So these are rarely about MDIIO and how great we are, but we are early. And yes, the idea is put your music up, and as more music that goes up, there's other great partnerships that we're about to announce with an international song contest called Juki that is amazing. You guys should all participate in that. There's a lot of things, but to answer your question is, the last thing I would say is, actually, I'm going to pose this. I'm going to change the question a little bit and ask Carla. So Carla, let's say you are wanting to introduce a new writer that you have to your music supervisor community, right? How do you do that?
The first people that I am going to reach out to are the people with relevant projects. So I think it's really important to do your research on the music supervisors and the projects that they're working on and send them relevant music, because they get inundated with blasts and new releases and showcases and everything all day long. And, and this is something that I hear them say over and over and over again when they're on panels is do your research on their shows. What kind of, if you're sending something to the supervisor for Grey's Anatomy, that's going to be very different music than the music that you're sending to, I don't know, like Empire, when Empire was on TV. So I think it's really important to do your homework and know your audience and know what, have an idea of what your music is right for, so you're not wasting anybody's time. Be clear and concise about who you are and what you do. Again, even just the ease of like, I have instrumentals, my splits are all figured out, send them information.
And I think it makes sense to not send everything, but to send just really the best.
Yes.
Even if it's one thing, just send the best one thing that you have.
Don't send them 20 things, send them 3 to 5 things that you think might be perfect for their project. Or again, one. Only one.
Yeah,
one is better than, I've landed things when I've said, I'm not going to blow up your inbox right now. I have one thing that I think is going to work for this. And that, is so appreciated by music supervisors.
Yeah. And a little bit of insight into how a music supervisor might work. Again, when we post projects up on MDIIO, submit to those projects, but submit the right songs to those projects, because what happens is, even if your song is not chosen, but they like it, they're going to go, ooh, Devin Kessler. Yeah, I remember that name because I liked that song. Or they might go, ooh, I like that song. It wasn't right for this, but I've saved it because I know I'm going to use it down the line somewhere. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of the way that music supervisors work. It's not necessarily like, this is the pitch, these are the songs I got. Oh, well, okay, next week it's a different pitch, it's a different batch of songs. They might go, I like Devin's song, Black t-shirt. I'm just making it up because you're wearing a black t-shirt, right? And I'm going to save that for later because I might use that down the line. So again, even though you might not get that placement, you don't know whether or not they're holding on to that for a potential usage down the line. Jack DeBow says metadata question mark. So yeah, the answer is when you upload your song to MDIIO, you actually can embed all of your own metadata directly right there. So yes, when that music gets shared and it gets downloaded, all of that metadata is lumped into that audio, that file. So that is the end of our questions. I wanted to do, you guys, you can generally just thumbs up me. We could go through this contract real quick. Are you guys interested in kind of taking a look at what a real licensing contract looks like? Okay, perfect. I'm going to do a screen share here, you guys. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. And then, no, that's our questions. And then I'm going to leave that site. And then there we go. So can you guys see that, right? Get a basic idea. Okay, so we're going to go through this and we're going to talk about it. And I'll just read it. And Carla, maybe give us some context. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
November 12th, 2019. The date, via email. So this was done to me. Xbox Game Pass live action. Let's go. Master use advertising license agreement. So let's just talk on that for a second and give us some context to that phrase if you can.
Master use. So yeah. So this is a request just for the master side of this, and this is a license agreement, which is the step after. This is a step after you quoted.
Correct.
So this is when you, this is the agreement that's going to sort of formalize what you quoted on.
Right. This will confirm the material terms of our agreement with respect to the master use advertising license to be granted by Justin Gray Entertainment LLC, licensor, to CMD Agency, care of Microsoft, licensee, in connection with the trailer advertisements and promotions, collectively the advertising for the campaign Xbox Game Pass live action. So just what are we talking about there?
They're confirming the song and the licensee and exactly what they're going to be licensing it for.
Great. So term one, master, the master recording of the musical composition entitled Let's Go, master embodying the performance by Black and Gray artist.
Basically repetitive to what we just said, but they're just laying out and confirming the song title and the artist name there.
Great. Territory, worldwide internet / US, UK TV broadcast and cinema rights.
So they are confirming the territory and the media. I could say for internet, licensees almost always ask for worldwide rights. Just because it's really, sometimes they will, and this is usually an effort to maybe negotiate a price down, they will try to geogate the internet use. So maybe it's only viewable in the UK or the US, but that's rare and it can be difficult. So we're seeing it less and less, but yeah, and then the media they're asking for is broadcast TV and cinema. Broadcast TV in the US would be, because they're asking for the US and the UK. In the US, it's basically networks that are on public airwaves. So ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, the CW. And in the UK, I believe it's something called Freeview, which are the networks in a joint venture with the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and Sky. It's basically, broadcast TV is basically free TV, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And cinema
and TV license. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say cinema refers to, they want to be able to play it in movie theaters.
And which we won't even talk about today, but basically film and TV licensing is different in the UK than it is in the US. So yes. they can use Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or the Beatles in Neighbours in the UK for free, which is crazy.
That's a whole other seminar.
Yeah, that's a whole other one. Exactly. Next term internet 11/18/19 to 6/30/20. TV broadcast 11/18/19 to 1/5/20. Cinema 11/18/19 to 5/18/19.
Yeah, so this is just specifying your term, the amount of time they want to use the song. You'll notice I think everyone is slightly different here. In ads, it's almost always specified a term that, it could be, for ads and promos, a week, a month, 6 months. In TV and film, it tends to be perpetuity. That's pretty normal, but yeah, they're just specifying exactly how long they want to use
Well, actually, what I wanted to show you here is you looked at it's saying its start date is 11/18. The license is 11/12. So this actually started 6 days later, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Very, very quick. Nature of use, worldwide internet, US, UK. We already kind of went over that. Licensed use in and in connection with the advertising of Xbox Game Pass live action for worldwide internet / US, UK broadcast, TV, and cinema rights. So can you just discuss this? Because I have some sort of thoughts on this, and maybe you can contextualize that for us.
I mean, this is really just specifying exactly what the song is going to be used for. It's going to be used specifically for the Xbox Game Pass live action, not general Xbox uses or whatever. It's just really boiling down what it's going to be used for and where.
Right, exactly. But for example, they can only use it for this. They can't use it for Xbox game.
Exactly. That's what
something
I mean.
else.
Yeah.
They can't use it
Exactly.
for a, let's say, a sister product.
No, they can only use it for this specific product.
Right. License fee. I'm going to sound douchey. I meant to actually redact that. I'm sorry. For the master embodiment in the advertising, licensee agrees to pay licensor the sum of $75,000 payable promptly following the latter of the initial general public exhibition of the advertising or licensor's execution of this agreement. No further amount shall be payable in connection with the licensed use. Do you want to chat on that?
Yeah, so this is really just specifying the fee for the master and when it's going to be paid. And they're basically saying that it's either going to be paid promptly after it airs or after the agreement is executed, because basically, as you can see in this case, sometimes a use will get confirmed, like they'll send the confirmation before the use actually airs. And in that case, that gets the ball rolling of getting paid a little bit before the use actually happens. So it's just specifying that you're either going to get paid promptly right after it airs, or if they send out this agreement early, it'll be before that.
Right. Miscellaneous. The miscellaneous licensor, us, represents and warrants that it owns or controls 100% of the copyright in and to the master throughout the territory that it owns or controls, and other rights necessary to enter into and fully perform this agreement, and that neither the consent of the artist nor any other parties required in connection with the licensed use. So we can start there.
So yeah, this is basically just confirming that Justin actually has the right to approve 100% of this master for all the territories that were requested. And it's, again, just confirming that he does not need to get consent from any other parties to fully confirm and fully approve this use.
Right. And my publisher is seeing a very similar a licensing agreement for the sync side. Licensor will indemnify and hold licensees harmless from any and all claims, liabilities, losses, damages, and expenses arising from any breach of licensor's warranties, representations, or covenants under this agreement.
This is basically saying that Microsoft isn't responsible if someone other than Justin were to magically come forward and say, oh, hey, I actually control 10% of this song and you need to pay me or I'm going to sue you. It basically is just saying that they're not responsible for any of that, and they aren't responsible for any expenses or damages or anything that would arise from a situation like that happening.
Or what's even worse, a non-represented sample. A sample that makes it into a song.
I was actually gonna talk about that in this next section, what it says, but yes.
So this next section, or no failure by licensee to perform any of its obligations hereunder shall be deemed a breach hereof, unless licensor has given written notice of such failure to licensee, and licensee does not cure such non-performance within 30 days after receipt of such notice, provided, however, that in the event, there's a lot of lawyer speak. Mm-hmm. Licensor's rights and remedies shall be limited to the rights, if any, to recover damages and actions. Forget that. Basically, it just means that if for whatever reason there's been a breach, that the licensee for some reason has breached the agreement, I have to give them rights and notices that they have to remedy that within 30 days. So maybe it's they've signed it but have not paid. Maybe that usually it has nothing to do with whether it's been broadcast or not. Typically, it kind of revolves around payment, right? Carla, would you say?
Yeah, and I would say too, like a situation like that might arise where the licensor, be it Justin or maybe me, the publisher, all of a sudden realizes there was a problem, like you were saying, maybe you licensed a song, your system said you had 100% of it, and then you happen to find out like, oh crap, there's actually a sample in here that takes a certain portion of the song. So you would reach out to the licensee in writing and let them know. And then that gives them 30 days to rectify the situation, meaning either re-clear it and get it paid or pull the song or whatever needs to happen. So that's sort of example of what might happen there, but it's rare.
Yeah. The next question, furthermore, licensee is proceeding in reliance on the terms of this agreement, so such terms are specified, but licensee shall have no obligation hereunder in the event that the master is not included in the advertising. If licensor so desires, licensor may provide a more formal document incorporating the above terms to licensee upon the confirmation that the master will be embodied in the advertising. Naturally, the addition of provisions this document shall subject be to good faith negotiation between parties in accordance with the industry customs and practices.
So basically that first part is just saying that if the song doesn't get used for some reason, that they don't have to pay you.
Right.
Go ahead, were you gonna say something?
Right. No, right, exactly. And also that we don't need a more formal long form agreement that this will satisfy as proof of this agreement.
Yeah. Some publishers have their own long form agreements they like to send after this because they have their own language that they like to use, but it's just saying you can do that if you want, but if you don't want to do that, this is fine.
Right. The next little bits are pretty simple. It's just basically saying that this is the formal document unless we decide that we want to have a more legal long form document, which we never do. This agreement may be executed in counterparts by facsimile. So it's just saying that we could sign the PDF or whatever. It doesn't need to be actually an original. In fact, it says right here, the failure to provide such an original version shall not affect the validity and efficacy of this agreement. And finally, if the foregoing confirms your understanding, basically saying, okay, if we all agree, you sign it. And so we did. And so that is basically going through a licensing agreement line by line. You get these a lot. Sometimes they don't actually manifest into formal licenses, but it certainly is nice to know when a potential licensee is coming to you wanting a quote. That means that usually they've put it into their picture and they're considering it when they want to quote. Of course, when they formally present to you the licensing offer, that is usually a pretty good sign. Even then, though, sometimes they're still not obligated to release it, to put it out, because sometimes things happen where the ad doesn't run. I would imagine it was, as COVID was hitting, there was a lot of advertisements that got pulled.
Yep.
And people that licenses that never got transacted ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So one more quick question here, which is from Glenn. Do all instrumental versions need the same metadata as full versions? Basically, yeah. I mean, if you want people to be able to do things like find you, know who wrote the song, be able to contact you, it's very helpful to make sure that all of that metadata is the same. And again, if as you guys probably know, or if maybe you don't, is that on MDIIO you can actually store all of the different iterations and versions of your song on the same page. So if you were to share the instrumental, that metadata is embedded and it is downloaded and part of the data set that is actually embedded into the actual MP3. So this actually felt like a really, really informational webinar. Very happy to see all of you guys here. It's amazing to see Thailand, East Coast of Canada, Ben B in Atlanta, it's just people from all over the world, which is amazing, which means to me that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and grateful to have everybody here as a part of it. As you guys know, we have a pretty great intercom system with Adam, who you saw there very briefly. He's basically looks older than me and is less handsome, but he's there monitoring the intercom chats. So if you guys have any ideas for awesome blogs, please submit those. I would love to get a sense of what you guys want us to be writing about. If you guys have any great creative ideas for ways to make MDIIO better, that would be fantastic. I urge you guys to not only participate in pitching your music. Again, realistically, it is tough, but licenses do happen all the time to everybody. And also, submit to our Feedback Fridays, where we are doing, real life A&R people coming in and listening to music and giving positive and giving feedback and really helping you, improve and get better at what you're doing here. So I see here, everybody's bragging now. Everybody's bragging. Okay. Robert Gibson's coming to us from the Bahamas. By the way, that's where I went to. That was where my honeymoon was in the Bahamas. So I love the Bahamas. Vancouver. We'll ask Keys has got a quick question here. Explain MFN with master and MFN with co-pub. We'll talk about that. An hour from Las Vegas. Yes, Allison. St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. Love it. Love it. Let's hit two more questions real quick. Costa Rica. Amazing. It's incredible, you guys.
Kitchen.
The kitchen. Yeah. Kitchen. My favorite room in the house. Friday songs are with lyrics, preferably. Yeah. LA, Flavia. LA, nice. The OC. My daughter's got her favorite cookie spot in the OC. It's called Crumble Cookies. Don't ever go there, or go there. It's really delicious. Okay, question. Did you say after this agreement is signed that they can still decide not to use it and pay you, or do they still need to pay you? Correct. There's a term called pay for play, which means that regardless of whether they use it, they have to pay you. These agreements are never that. So they can basically go all the way to the finish line, say we're going to pay you this amount of money, and then they just don't run the ad. They don't pay you. They don't. There's no kill fee. There's none of that. So yeah, you just and again, let's just to put this in this context. There's something that's happening right now. I do some work with a band called Run the Jewels, which some of you may or may not know. And we are currently we have a song that is supposed to be used in a movie trailer for a lot of money, and we don't even know when it's going out. The person that is working with us is literally every hour going on YouTube looking up the movie trailer to see if they've used it. I mean, that's literally what happens. Wouldn't you say, Carla?
Yep.
Oh, I guess they used it. So,
yep.
Yeah,
especially with the trailers and commercial, they keep things super, super secretive. Very
secretive.
Yeah.
Very secretive. Well, I'll ask these quick questions. Can you explain MFN with master and MFN with co-pub? So as we determined, MFN is a term that means most favored nations. What that means is basically whoever gets the best deal, everybody gets that deal. Everybody tags along with the best deal. So typically, if you are owning the publishing and the master, in other words, if you are a complete one-stop, there's no real MFN. But if there is another songwriter that's on the song and their publisher has pushed the fee up by $1,000, then MFN says that you too will then get the benefit of that increased fee.
And it's not separated out by master and publishing. If publishing quotes one thing and master quotes higher, publishing gets bumped up. It's not two separate things.
Correct. However, sometimes it's not also always 50-50. For example, we do talk about there's a very lucrative cover songs business. So, sometimes you listen to a show and you hear a really cool cover version of a song. They might have paid, if it's like, I remember there was one of my favorites, you hear them all the time. One of my favorites was this really cool dark version of Crazy in Love by Beyonce. They probably paid $500,000 to the publisher, and they might have paid $25,000 to the person that owned that master. Right. And so, that's when MFN there is no advantage to MFN. That usually doesn't work. But, I have a friend of mine, an artist that I worked with named it doesn't matter what her name is. But she's an incredible singer, and she did a phenomenal version of I Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis. She's made millions of dollars on that song, owning the master recording of that version of that song. And so, it's literally, that can also be a very lucrative side of the business as well. But yeah, typically MFN means that anybody that is on the publisher, that whoever gets the best deal, everybody gets that. If there's co-ownership between the master for whatever reason, usually there's not, but if there was, whoever negotiates the best deal, what's good for one is good for all.
And that's something you can write in. If you get a quote request and it doesn't say it in there, and they say, hey, can I have this for $2,000? Like, you can actually write that in, like approved MFN with master and co-pub, just to cover yourself.
That actually, and if you remember, Carl, that happens a lot with me owning the masters, where I will say I'll go MFN with my publisher, meaning that whatever my publisher negotiates, that's what I get.
But you can write that in. You don't have to be passive about it and just wait for it to be stated in the contract. That's something that you can write in when you sign it.
Yes.
It's very standard. No one's going to go, oh.
Yeah, it's not like, forget this person. They're hard to deal with. No.
Exactly. I would say if you don't see it in there, always write it in.
Agreed. That's a very good point. And yes, it stands for most favored nations. Basically, whoever gets the best deal. What's good for one is good for all. We had talked about, yes, lyrics are not necessary, but it would be cool for Feedback Fridays. When you work with, quick question for Brad, when you work with someone out of the US, does that hinder supervisors from going with your song due to the clearance issues in other countries like Thailand? Marco, it looks like you and Brad will not be collaborating anytime soon. Sorry. We're trying to build bridges here, not burn them. Whatever. No, Brad, the rights reside with the owners. So, Marco could be living in, the most remote part of the earth. The rights reside with him. It has nothing to, it's not territorial in that sense. All Along the Watchtower, Bear McCreary version was an awesome cover too. Indeed. I make my foreign songwriters register with American BMI. That's good. As a PRO, you want to make sure that that writers can oftentimes collect directly from territories, so that they don't have to take further reductions. That's a very good point. Let's write a song together. Brad says, all 29 of us? Sure. We'll set the goal. We'll have the second most writers on a song after Uptown Funk, I think. It's all good, Brad. Maybe we'll collab. Well, Marco, please reach out to Brad. Go find him on MDIIO and invite him to be part of your network. You guys, thank you so much for taking the time and joining me today. We have lots of more cool, fun events happening. We are planning another MDIIO X songwriting camp. We would love to see you there. Those have been tremendously successful. The songs have been fantastic. We are doing every second Friday our Feedback Fridays. Please make those submissions. Let's, this is a great way. And again, I just wanted to sort of put it out there. In feeling the pain of not getting feedback like you want. That's why we started these Feedback Fridays, because we don't depend on music supervisors to give us those feedback. So these are all different cool ways to kind of learn and get better and grow. Even if it's not your song, it's listening to a song and then seeing if your opinion matches our opinion of our professional A&R people. Of course, the biggest benefit is if your song gets used in our Feedback Friday, the goal is to have people like Carla listen to it and go, hey, I really like that song. Maybe there's something we could do with it. So it's really, these are all parts of ways that we want to help people build these networks, help you grow, help you increase your group and your circle of collaborators. And what's really exciting is we're seeing a lot of collaborations happening outside of MDIIO X, even through people that are meeting at the camps and now collaborating separately. And it's amazing because I love getting messages from people saying, hey, we met at the camp, here's something that we did outside of the camp. I can tell you unequivocally that in my career, the biggest benefit has come from meeting people, collaborating with people, enjoying each other's company, and slowly but surely building those bricks. That is the way that it works. And I'm grateful to have all of you here. In fact, I'm going to say this, and I say it all the time, and I'm going to warn you guys, you never use it, but here is my email. This is really my email, jgray@MDIIO.com. So you guys can hit me anytime. I'm happy to give you, feedback. Don't abuse it, obviously, but I'm happy to give you feedback. And I would love to, it would be my great pleasure to see everybody here start really making music their livelihood. And if it's already your livelihood, making it even more of your livelihood. It would be a great pleasure for me to watch everybody here succeed. And whatever I can do to be a part of that journey with you, trust me, I'm there with you. So I want to see us all win and be successful. Carla, I really want to thank you for taking the time today. You've given us 15 extra minutes of your time. Very grateful. We will undoubtedly raise a veggie taco in your honor next week at El Coyote, I promise.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Adam, as always, thank you for the tremendous job you've done in putting this event together. Guys, log in, use the platform, submit songs to projects. Get your name out there. Again, even though your song might not get used, it's in the very least, you're using it as a way to plant the seed so we know who Russell Porosky is, who Glenn MacLeod is, who Jack DeBow is, who Raquel B is, who Keys is. We want to make sure that we can help you build those relationships and those networks. So grateful for you guys. Thank you so much. Please keep an eye on our various different things that we're doing. Read the newsletters. They're really great. I find them very informative personally. I enjoy writing those blogs. If you have any blog ideas, click on that little thing in the bottom corner of your your profile and let us know what you want to hear us talk about. Thank you so much. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening. Eat the French fries. Life is too short. Take care, everybody.